Hey guys, it's Logan with AK47. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Cold Steel AK47. So I've got my review paper here. I'm sorry it's facing me. I need to be able to read it. So we'll just start. Starting with the tip. You guys can hopefully see. I called that an adequate tip. It's not extraordinarily narrow or extraordinarily thick. I would say it could stand to be a little bit thicker, seeing as it's not a penetration type design anyway, but I'm sure it'll be fine. It's got plenty of belly on the blade. The blade profile itself I thought was a pretty cool looking design. Thought it was a little short due to the amount of space that they devoted to this little less than lethal part. And the grind is sort of a shallow, hollow grind, which I would prefer full flat, but you know, it's to be expected that you'd get a hollow grind with a knife design like this. The steel is AUS 8A, which is fine. Yeah, for this amount of money, I'd say that's around the steel that you could expect to get. The edge retention is decent, leaning towards good. It definitely isn't a problem, but it could be better. The sharpening, on the other hand, was aggravating as hell. Cold Steel's edges have a tendency to be asymmetric and to be in between 40 and 30 degrees, which makes it really hard to sharpen on a Spyderco Sharp Maker, which is the system I use. So I don't think I've ever gotten it back as sharp as the factory edge was on this knife, whereas on some of my Spyderco CRKTs, it was real easy to touch it back up and even sharper than the factory edge. So that's aggravating. Deployment, you have all the methods of deployment except a flipper and a thumb flick, which by that I meant that you can use this thumb plate as sort of a thumb stud, but you can't flick it open the way that you can other knives with thumb studs. At least I can't, maybe you can. And then obviously you don't have a flipper because it is a back lock. But besides that, you can do it this way. This thumb disc does work as a wave opener, and you can do a rotational, just kind of rotate the knife out of the handle. So for speed of deployment, I would say it's great because you can wave it open, so it's open by the time it's coming out of your pocket. The lock is the Cold Steel Triad lock, which is a really solid lock. I really advocate for the Triad lock. It is a very strong lock. Play in the blade, front to back, side to side, no play, which is to be expected of the Triad lock. The handle is G10, and it is a higher traction G10. The ergos are good for everything except push cutting. There's no real comfortable position for push cutting. Your best is kind of there, maybe thumb on the back. So the ergos are pretty good. Jimping, you don't have jimping. I mean, you have some on the side of the thumb plate, none on the back, but you don't really need it given the ergonomics of the handle. The handle will lock your hand in real good. There's no worry in my mind about dropping the knife while using it. It does have the lanyard hole. As you see, I've got my little amateur lanyard on here. The presentation, the only real gripe I had with presentation is the coating on the Cold Steel blades could be better. It does come off rather easily. As you can see, I've scraped a little off there and a little more on the other side. That's not too big of a problem because it does take a little while to happen, and it generally gives the knife some character as opposed to just looking bad. And as with all Cold Steels, they do come very, very sharp. Screws, they are Torx screws, which is fine. The clip is it's a good clip, but it is awfully shallow, so there is still this much knife sticking out of your pocket, which could be better. Again, that's a choice that they had to make to include this big pommel here for less than lethal ability, or less lethal ability. So now into usage. Obviously, I think of this knife as more of a defensive type knife first, primarily, and then secondarily I would say it does work as an EDC knife. As a defensive knife, I think it would be very capable. Like I said, the Triad lock is a very exceptional lock. I'll say it's probably the best that I've personally encountered for folding knives. So there is that. And then with the ergonomics of the handle, I think you've got a really good traction plan. I don't think this knife's coming out of your hands. So yeah, I think it does work as a very good defensive knife, and that is how Cold Steel builds it, and I think they're being honest with you. It's very quick out of your pocket because of the wave opening. And then it does have this huge less than lethal capability here in the pommel. And here I want to describe it more shortly, but I feel like I have to tell a story to get the entire point across. So as you can see, my pommel is a little bit deformed toward the end. That occurred, I was out trying to break a television screen on a big old style television that we found in a dumpster with the pommel, and instead of breaking the screen, I deformed the bottom of the pommel, and also it made a noise when it was in my hand, so we stopped. We took it home, and I was having trouble getting it to lock up. It seemed like the spring here in the knife in the back lock had sort of slipped, so it was it had a lot of diminishment in how, as it got closer there, it would close. So as you can see now, about there it would close. Used to be I could have it right there and it wouldn't snap the rest of the way closed. So I was worried I was going to have to send it back in on warranty, but I sprayed the inside down with some WD-40 and the problem has seemed to resolve itself. The lockup has gone all the way back to normal, and I'm not having the problem anymore. So I don't know what that means, but it wasn't a big problem for me because WD-40 fixed it, and if that happens to you, either spray it down with WD-40 or contact cold steel, and I'm sure they'll try to sort the problem out for you. So yeah, as I've said, as a defensive knife, I'm sure it would be very capable. Not as capable as a fixed blade, but as far as small or knives in this size for defensive knives, I'd say it's a pretty primo deal. Overview, solid knife. It's definitely one of my favorites. I carry it a lot. You kind of have to decide for yourself if it's what you want for the price tag, but I think it's a very cool knife. And then pass, fail, I would definitely give it a pass. Now I've got some statistics, or not really statistics, but specifications. Blade length 3.5 inches, blade thickness 3.5 millimeters, the weight 5.5 ounces, and overall length is 9 inches. On Blade HQ it goes for $85 plus shipping and handling. The other day on eBay I found one for $67 and free shipping. For $67 I would definitely recommend this knife. For the $85 and shipping and handling, I'd say it's more up to you, but there we go. This has been a Hydra 572, cool cold steel knife. Stay tuned for more of the same.